This is Twisted Passages with award-winning author Marie Sutro. Now, let's take a deep dive into the dark world of psychological thrillers and meet the authors who created them.
Hello, and welcome to Twisted Passages. I'm your host, Marie Sutro, and today we have USA Today best-selling author Aaron Philip Clarke here to talk about his new release, The Bluest Night. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to chat with you.
Oh, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for writing this story. My goodness, I want to jump in, but I will sit quiet while you give listeners an overview of the story, because wow, what a story.
Sure. So this is the third Trevor Finnegan novel. So it is part of the Trevor Finnegan series, or at this point, it feels more like a saga. And, it finds him, it picks up at the end of the last book, Blue Like Me. And so we find Trevor in a particular situation where this crime is hit very close to home. This newly discovered brother who he didn't know was out there, didn't know his father was keeping the secret from him, is now missing. And the brother was on his way with his girlfriend from Nevada to Southern California and was going to meet his father for the first time. They never make it. They ultimately are discovered in Malibu, and his brother's girlfriend, Keisha, is found dead, and his brother, Avery, is essentially missing. Now, of course, Trevor and his father discover him, but he remembers nothing of the last 48 hours. And from the outstart, Trevor is somewhat suspicious of this whole situation. But as he investigates, he realizes that it's much bigger than his brother, and there's something happening in this very homogenous beach community that is incredibly sinister and vile. And as Trevor digs deeper, he realizes that he might not make it through this particular investigation alive.
Absolutely an amazing story, fantastic characters, but I have to start off, you touched on it there gently, this more homogenous community that most people around the world always think about Malibu as just the greatest place in the world. There's all these super wealthy people and Hollywood stars, and the sun shines all the time, other than the tragic fires that people know that have happened in those hills. I think people do see it as a fairy tale. So the fact that you were able to give us this sinister, gritty underbelly of Malibu was absolutely phenomenal. What made you choose Malibu?
Well, most of my books start with a real life case. They're usually loosely inspired by that, and that becomes kind of the kernel, the genesis of the story. In this situation, it was the Matrice Richardson case of 2009. So the young lady who went missing in the Malibu area, it's believed that she was having a mental health crisis. She went to one of the restaurants there and she ordered one of the most expensive things on the menu. During that whole meal, she was getting up, she was talking to individuals, and people kind of were alerted that something might not be right. And so then when it came time to pay, she did not have any money. So the staff in general were very much like, something's going on here. Maybe we should just let her go. There was one individual apparently went in the back and made the phone call, and the sheriff came and she was booked and she was taken to the sheriff's station. This ended up being the last known image of her on the sheriff department's closed circuit feed camera, where she's being walked out of the station with a deputy. About a year later, her remains are found in one of the canyons. And to this day, it's never actually been ruled a homicide. And so it got me looking into more people who have gone missing in the area, because there's these huge canyons. I mean, Malibu is quite large, and you could kind of hide out, in these canyons, and people could potentially be doing all kinds of crime in these canyons. And so that's really what sparked my interest in looking at that particular area, and with it being under policed and it being very homogenized, and also, it's known as a beach community. It's a tourist place, and so it got me thinking of what sort of dangers could exist in these places that are supposedly seen as safe, where people don't lock their doors and all of that. And maybe for those people, they do feel safe, but there has to be a segment of the population that goes into those areas and doesn't feel that. and instead actually is potentially in danger. And so that's really what kicked off the story for me.
And Trevor is such a wonderful proponent. He's put so much on the line for justice for so many people already in his life, and he's gone so many places. What fascinated me about this is you took a character that we always see as kind of being on the right side of things,
Mm.
and in this relationship with his father, you made us wonder, wait a minute, Trevor, are you coming in with either jealousy issues or other things that are making you prejudicial and maybe trying to undermine a relationship that your dad should have as a healthy relationship with any of his children? So it was really interesting to wonder about Trevor and say, wow, where is Aaron taking him? What's going on here? Is he going to be that like 11-year-old kid who's jealous, or what's happening? What made you decide to put the screws to Trevor and his dad that way?
From day one, from book one, he and his father have had this contentious relationship, and it has so many layers to it. So Trevor, in many ways, his father is his hero. His father has a lot of flaws. He's a recovering alcoholic. In this book, very much in the first book, he wasn't recovering at all. He was well into his addiction and incredibly toxic. But in the second book, you start to see a bit of a transition. So in Blue Like Me, there's a little bit of a transition happening, and his father has this epiphany, and he kind of comes to understand the damage that he's done. Now, it does take him getting shot to see this, and be in the hospital. But he comes to this realization. It's almost like he has to come face to face with the choices that he's made and the damages that he's literally laid waste to Trevor's life in many ways, and made it so Trevor cannot have healthy relationships. Trevor has done extensive work on himself and is trying, and his father's just in the beginning of that. So I wanted to put them together. It was important to have them be in the same space and have to be dual protagonists in this way, where they really want the same thing. It's just that Trevor is questioning a lot, and his father is steadfast, like, no, I would never produce a child who could do anything that they're saying that, Avery did. And so it was very important for me to do that, so that this book serves as, how can I put it? This book really serves as the moment where two characters who at one point in time saw themselves as potentially never having a healthy relationship. This opportunity, though it's horrific, in a way, if it wasn't for this, his father would never be unburdened, because Sean is now unburdened and can tell the truth and stop with this facade, pretending as if, I might not have been the greatest husband, but I was a good father. I took care of you, took care of your mother. That whole thing, well, a lot of that was true, but also two things could be true at the same time. He did that, but he also had the secret family over here and was not taking care of them. And so literally in the book, he says, I had to make a decision. It was either going to be you and your mother, or it was going to be Avery and his mother. And I chose to be home. I chose to be a father to you. And I feel bad for my son over here. I'll send some money, but that's the extent. He denies Avery a relationship with him, and kind of makes it seem as if he's saving him from disappointment. And so it was important for them to have to finally hash that out in this book. And it'll make much more sense in the next book as to why it needed to happen in this book. But I want them to have a happy ending. And so in order to have that, we had to have this dark, and that's sometimes difficult, but it's one of those things where you kind of got to go through that cathartic moment to get to the other side. So
putting them in the same space, often they're in the same car together, in other places in the same room, or at least the same setting, and having two people who have come to peace. We all have to kind of make peace with ourselves and the things that we do in order to go on every day. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we tell ourselves the unvarnished truth and we address it. And other times we can't quite get to that unvarnished layer. There's a lot of different fabrics we kind of pull even over our own hearts about what the truth is. And it was fascinating seeing these two characters, each representing their truth as they could tell it, and then having to realize, and this is why it was so fun to be a reader of the story, that it is in that humility that we can move forward, that, you know, you kind of got to take a knee sometimes
Yeah.
before you can get up and walk. It was really, really fascinating to me how that worked out. And it was really beautiful because it was so real.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's always been the goal with these novels. I read a lot of detective fiction, especially when I was younger too. And I love PIs, I love police procedurals. But for me, and I think maybe it's because of my background and my experience, it was always important to really hone into the emotional cost of this type of work. And Trevor feels it, where he could literally see it in his relationship with Sarada, who essentially is his significant other, and he doesn't know if he could get himself together so that they could be more. And I wanted to make sure that all those little pieces felt grounded. No, it's funny, in the first book, publisher wanted me to kind of wrap it up in a nice bow. They didn't like that one of the antagonists, Boston, got away. And they were like, is there any way he could track her down? No, you know, because it's not gonna happen. It's not realistic. Now he gets her, you know, she shows up in the second book, and that's part of the climax. But I have never felt that, where I feel like it needs to be all kind of wrapped up in a nice bow at the end. I'd rather leave those threads kind of loose and let people wonder. And I feel that's real. That's very real. I mean, even if you think about it from a law enforcement standpoint, oftentimes they don't get everybody. I mean, you get maybe the key players, or maybe you don't get the key players. You get the low level, low hanging fruit type folks, and hope that they'll inform on somebody or tell on somebody. And so it's not realistic to have kind of this one man army be able to take down all these people. I just, that wasn't the sort of book that this, you know, or series that this was going to be.
You did bring some other characters back. Some characters that really, I think all of them are tough relationships, other than Sarada. I would say they're all tough relationships from his past.
Yeah.
Whether it's professional relationships or odd friendships that he has. And here I'm referring to Cassandra, who comes into this story. But as grounded as Trevor seems to be, a lot of his relationships aren't really as grounded as his relationship with Sarada. Even with Simone, he's trying to feel out, how am I going to be a dad? And can I be a dad? And what's that going to look like? And well, first we need to physically bring her closer so I can be a dad. You know, there's all of these points where he's kind of on almost stormy seas. It looks calm, but maybe his footing isn't so sure. And I loved that. I loved that you were able to do that with every character and just make us say, wow, what's going on here? You know, what's going to happen?
Yeah, shaky footing is a good way, good way to put it. Yeah, every relationship. And Trevor doesn't have friends, really. The closest thing Trevor has to friends is his ex-partner, Sally Munoz, who's locked up in prison. And then also Cassandra Boyle, who is a sociopath. While Trevor looks at her as being dangerous, he also put himself in that situation where he's in her proximity. And for him, he looks at it as, well, what is gained? And so if that means that there's a little danger over here, that's fine. I'll kind of manage that. But the only thing that matters is getting justice for these people over here. So if it means that I have to stay with Cassandra Boyle, you know, and Nigel in this mansion, then that's what I'm going to do. And that risk will pale in comparison when I finally solve this case and get to the bottom of things.
It made me, I wouldn't say it made me laugh, but it made me pause. Let's put it this way, because there's so much in Trevor that does make you reflect. And one of those things is he is this amazing proponent for justice, but his own myopathy sometimes, as we said with Avery, or even with his friends, or his ends justify the means scenario that you alluded to, he sometimes is falling into the same traps as those he's trying to fight against. And I love that because that, again, is so real and so human. It's easy to see all of these bad things over here, but again, to look inside of ourselves and say, whoa, what am I doing? Maybe Pops is right on this issue. I mean, wow. You gave us a new character in this, a detective, and you gave us a little bit about her personal life. Trevor looks at it from one position, his dad looks at it from another. And again, you're seeing these intrinsic prejudices play out. And it's just so real because it's everywhere, right? Everybody's got an opinion, unfortunately, on everything, don't we? And you see his dad is trying to help Avery and trying to help Keisha and trying to do all this. But then it's like, whoa, some of the stuff that's coming out of your mouth, bud, come on.
It's a level of toxicity that, being around him, having to be around his father. But because of Avery and because of what's happened to Keisha, they are now forced to be in the same proximity of each other. And so one of the moments that I really liked when I was writing it was when he finally gets, he has the issue with his car, his Falcon, his beloved Falcon. Cassandra offers this BMW 5 Series, this M. Then Trevor remembers he has always loved this car because Serrata's father purchased it and used to drive them around, something that you would think that his father would do and go cruising with him. Sean doesn't even remember this because he was, likely intoxicated and dealing with everything else and consumed with his own life and his hidden family and all these things. And so Trevor simply says, yeah, you won it. The idea that there's this absence that Trevor has, his father was there, but he wasn't there. There's this perpetual absence that he has had to contend with for most of his life when it comes to his father. And then now his father is present and he has to deal with him day after day, as they're investigating this case. And so it's difficult for him.
And those generational tensions as well, where his father has certain beliefs about things that he doesn't have and are quite frankly cringy for him in certain ways. The one thing I love too is even though, Trevor's kind of butting his head into the wall sometimes, what I love about his character is that innate sense of loyalty. You played it out in so many ways. No matter what his dad does, there's this inherent code that he's still his dad. And that even though he has his misgivings, he's going to help Avery and he's going to help his dad.
Yeah.
And with his significant other being out of the country, doesn't faze him. There's a lot being thrown in his face. I mean, literally. But he still has this loyalty code that is really, really impressive. So in that archetype character of a PI who has this incredible loyalty, even with Sally, and still seeking elements of that relationship in certain ways, is he seeking her guidance? But does he need that guidance? And is it more other things that he needs from seeing her?
Yeah.
Just so darn cool. Such a great character.
Thank you. Yeah, he misses Sally a great deal. And that's why he keeps showing up, even though she turns him away. But he understands that she was a good cop too. And in some ways she was better than him. She made one mistake that landed her in prison and the roles could have been reversed. And he realizes that.
One of the last things I kind of wanted to ask you about, it's a Trevor/Aaron question. And I know we are not, as authors, we are not our characters, but multiple times during the book, we get little insights into Trevor's musical tastes.
Oh,
and it sneaks in here, it sneaks in there. And I think he defines himself at one point as coming up with a blend of, did he say hip hop with, was it alternative? I think. And I was like, okay, wow, those are two interesting genres of music. So I've got to ask you, Aaron, what are your favorite styles of music?
Yeah, well, Trevor and I do have that in common. So 90s hip hop and 90s alternative were pretty much the Trevor playlist. And so when I was writing, I had playlists of songs that I remembered when I was in, middle school, high school, and that really became Trevor's playlist. And he talks a little bit about it. I have him have a conversation with Deputy Cohen. They have a kinship in the sense that they share the same vibe. Trevor is under different circumstances. If he had never gone into law enforcement, he originally was going to be an artist. And this book, it happens a few times where he just kind of wants to get away. And plus, he's driving along the coast, so you gotta have you gotta have music if you're going down PCH.
Oh yeah, serious tunes, because there's just too much energy, right? You got to get into that flow with music.
You have the ocean here, you got the cliffside there, and he's in a car designed for it, so he's escaping in those moments and trying to get a little bit of joy. And the music also connects to the idea that as long as he's listening to music, he's not completely consumed by the darkness. I use music in that way too, because for him, it's a connection to humanity still, that he can groove to a song, something that we all is very universal, something that we all do. We enjoy music. We enjoy what comes with music and the notion of listening to it with a friend or fellowship. And that's a connection. And so as long as Trevor's able to do that, then he's still connected. He still hasn't been completely consumed by the darkness.
And those jobs, as you say, those are tough jobs, whether you're FBI, whether you're actually in law enforcement, whichever badge that you're wearing, there is that element where it does wear on you every day, and it wears on you through the obvious ways of PTSD, but then also through the sacrifices you have to make to do the job. And you're taking time away from the people that care about you. You're taking time away from yourself, the time you want to spend with those people, opportunities you're missing, all these things. Those places, if your job is to go in every day and at a retail store, right, and you're ringing people up, unless somebody's asking you to, spot them something, there's not too much of that morality play go on. But in those kinds of fields, it comes up a lot and in very, very powerful ways that it's hard to forget about or walk away from.
You carry it. You
yeah.
know?
And his dad is a great example of that, right? Well, I did all this for the job, allegedly, so it would feed back to the family. Mm-hmm. But now his wife is gone. His son is raised. His other son, we don't know what's going to happen with that.
Mm-hmm.
And now what are you going to do all day with those thoughts and those memories? Facing sobriety is arguably even a bigger hurdle for him now, because not much going on now. And all that needs to be looked at, and you can't hide it under alcohol anymore. Absolutely powerful from start to finish. The plotting, oh my goodness, the pacing.
Thank you.
Take my breath away. Took my breath away in multiple scenes, Aaron. Multiple scenes. So when you're not taking folks' breath away with these amazingly plotted books and these wonderfully rich characters, what do you do for fun?
Oh, for fun? So I love martial arts. I've been a martial artist for about 20 years now. And so I train boxing and Muay Thai. And so I really enjoy that. And I like music. I mean, music is it's in the book. It's in all of my books, but it's a big part of my life. And so a buddy of mine, we have a jazz spoken word hip hop band. It's been a long time. We made an album and we made a few songs after that, but hopefully we can put out some new music for the next book, which it's a standalone. So outside of the fourth, Trevor Finnegan should be out either next year or early 2027. It's kind of my ode to Patricia Highsmith, to the talented Mr. Ripley. And the best way to describe it is the talented Mr. Ripley set in the world of hip hop. That book will be out. It's called All the Smoke, and it'll come out with Amistad HarperCollins.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited about that. That is just fusing so many worlds together. That is going to be absolutely amazing. So I will be watching and waiting. And for folks who are going to be watching and waiting right alongside of me, where is the best place, Aaron, for folks to find you? Is it your social media? Is it your website?
Yeah, so my official website is aaronphilipclark.com, and then my social media handles at RealAPC Books. So you can find me on Instagram, what was formerly known as Twitter. And then I'm also on Facebook, and you could just type in Aaron Philip Clark and I'll pop right up.
Perfect. Again, absolutely an amazing read from start to finish. Got us to think
Thank you.
so many things, feel so many things, and all wrapped up in a wonderful, wonderful mystery and thrill ride. It is The Bluest Night. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Twisted Passages. We hope to see you next time.